The crown just got shook, guys. Rolex's secretive pricing strategy just leaked straight out of China, and now they're scrambling to cut prices before the whole luxury watch market crashes. This ain't just some rumor. We're talking about billion-dollar moves that could change everything. You've got to watch to the end. What's good, luxury fam? Your boy's back with some absolutely wild news that's got the entire watch world buzzing right now. We're talking about the most secretive brand in luxury getting exposed in ways they never saw coming. This is the story of how one leak from China just forced the mighty Rolex to do something they never do. Rolex actually considered dropping their prices. Now, before we dive deep into this rabbit hole, let me paint you the picture of what's really going down. You see, Rolex has always been that untouchable giant, right? They set their prices. You take it or leave it. No negotiations, no discounts, no nothing. But 2025 just became the year that changed everything, and it all started with some information that wasn't supposed to see the light of day. The tea is hot, and it's spilling everywhere. Reports started surfacing that internal documents from Rolex's operations got leaked, specifically relating to their China distribution strategy. Now, China isn't just any market for luxury watches. We're talking about the second largest luxury market in the world. When Chinese consumers sneeze, the entire luxury industry catches a cold. Here's where it gets really spicy. The leak revealed something that Rolex probably wanted to keep under wraps forever: their actual cost structures and profit margins in different markets. But more importantly, it exposed their plans to deal with what's happening in the Chinese market right now. And trust me, what's happening is not pretty for Rolex. Let's talk numbers for a second, because this is where your mind is about to be blown. The second-hand Rolex market in China has been absolutely tanking. We're not talking about a small dip. Prices have been falling like a rock off a cliff. Some models that were trading at crazy premiums just a year ago are now sitting way below their retail prices. That's unheard of in the Rolex world. The Chinese property crisis hit different, and it hit the luxury watch market hard. When people's investments are tied up in real estate that's losing value, guess what's the first thing to go? That submariner sitting in the safe. The result? A flood of Rolex watches hitting the second-hand market all at once. But here's the kicker. This leak showed that Rolex was internally discussing price changes specifically for the Chinese market. The real users know Rolex doesn't do regional pricing differences that much. They're all about maintaining that global prestige pricing structure. So for them to even consider this has panic mode written all over it. The leaked documents allegedly showed internal communications about potentially reducing prices by up to 15% in certain Chinese markets. 15% on a brand that typically raises prices every year like clockwork. This is like seeing a unicorn riding another unicorn while eating a four-leaf clover. But before we get too deep into the China situation, let's talk about what's happening globally, because the numbers are absolutely wild. According to Morgan Stanley and watch charts, second-hand Rolex prices fell 5.7% year-on-year in 2024, and we're looking at the 11th consecutive quarter of decline. That's not a blip. That's a full-blown trend that's got everyone shook. The craziest part? The watch charts overall. Watch Market Index shows luxury Swiss watches fell 5.1% over the past year, with Rolex dropping 4.9%, Patek Philippe down 6.5%, and Audemars Piguet taking a massive 7.4% hit. These aren't small brands having rough patches. We're talking about the holy trinity of watchmaking all getting humbled at the same time. And here's something that's got collectors really spooked. Remember those legendary Rolex waiting lists that used to stretch for years? Yeah, those are disappearing faster than your paycheck on Black Friday. In 2024, the Rolex wait lists are getting shorter because of the increase in supply and the exit of flippers. People are literally walking into authorized dealers and seeing Rolex watches sitting in display cases. When's the last time that happened? Many Rolex models that once sold for double retail are now much closer to MSRP, and flippers have moved on. And with demand normalizing, watches are naturally becoming available. The whole ecosystem that kept Rolex prices artificially inflated is crumbling right before our eyes. You are watching this and probably thinking, okay, but this is just China, right? How does this affect the rest of the world? Oh, my friend, you're about to learn something about luxury brand psychology. Rolex's entire value proposition is built on exclusivity and consistent price appreciation. If word gets out that they're dropping prices anywhere, it creates a domino effect of doubt. Think about it. If you're a collector in New York or London and you find out that the same watch you paid full retail for is being sold for 15% less in Shanghai, how would you feel? Exactly. You'd feel played, and that's the last thing Rolex wants. The leak also exposed something else that's been whispered about in watch circles for years, and it's simply that Rolex's distribution strategy in China is about to get a major overhaul. They're moving away from authorized dealers and going direct to consumer with their own boutiques. This means more control, but also more responsibility when things go sideways. What makes the situation even crazier is the timing. Just when Rolex thought they had everything figured out with their new Shanghai boutique and direct sales strategy, the Chinese market decided to humble them real quick. The property sector crisis isn't just affecting rich people's portfolios, it's changing spending behaviors across the board. We're seeing Chinese consumers who used to buy multiple Rolexes a year suddenly becoming very selective. The whole flex culture that drove so much luxury consumption is cooling down fast. When showing off becomes less important than financial security, luxury brands feel it immediately. But here's where Rolex's reputation for playing chess, while everyone else plays checkers, comes in. Instead of just taking the L and moving on, they're reportedly considering something that's never been done before, and that's a trade-in program that guarantees value retention for Chinese customers. Basically, they're saying, buy this Rolex now, and if the value drops, we'll make up the difference. This is revolutionary thinking from a brand that's built its entire identity on never having to explain or justify their pricing. It's like seeing the cool kid in school actually caring about what people think for the first time. The ripple effects are already starting to show globally. Authorized dealers in other markets are getting nervous because they're hearing whispers about potential price adjustments. Some are even holding back on ordering new inventory because they don't want to get stuck with overpriced stock if Rolex decides to make moves. Social media has been going absolutely wild with this story. Watch influencers, collectors, and even casual enthusiasts are all speculating about what this means for the future. Some are saying this is the beginning of the end for Rolex's pricing dominance. Others think this is just a temporary adjustment that will make the brand stronger in the long run. The truth is probably somewhere in between, but one thing's for sure. This leak has exposed that even the mightiest luxury brands aren't immune to market forces. When a significant portion of your customer base suddenly can't or won't pay premium prices, you have to adapt or risk losing that market entirely. What's really interesting is how this situation highlights the difference between brand value and market value. Rolex has spent decades building up this image of timeless value and investment-worthy timepieces. But when the market says otherwise, what happens to that carefully constructed narrative? The Chinese consumers who bought Rolexes as investments are now sitting on depreciating assets. The psychological impact of that goes way beyond just the financial loss. It challenges the entire premise of why people buy luxury watches in the first place. The potential price drops being discussed aren't just random numbers. They're carefully calculated to match what the secondhand market is already doing, essentially acknowledging that their retail prices have become disconnected from reality in certain markets. This is brand management at the highest level, but it's also incredibly risky. Once you break the perception of unwavering value, it's almost impossible to rebuild it completely. Rolex is walking a tightrope between saving their Chinese market share and maintaining global brand integrity. The leak has also sparked conversations about transparency in luxury pricing. For years, consumers have accepted that luxury brands can charge whatever they want because of the mystique and exclusivity. But when internal documents show the real reasoning behind pricing decisions, that mystique starts to fade. Some industry experts are saying this could actually be good for Rolex in the long run. By showing that they're willing to adapt to market conditions rather than stubbornly sticking to outdated strategies, they might win back consumer trust. But others argue that any sign of price flexibility damages the investment narrative that drives so much luxury watch purchasing. The timing of this leak couldn't be worse for Rolex either. They're in the middle of expanding their manufacturing capacity with new facilities coming online. If demand uncertainty spreads beyond China, they could end up with the ability to produce more watches than they can sell at premium prices. That's a luxury brand's nightmare scenario. What's really got people talking is the potential for this to spread to other luxury categories. If Rolex can be forced to consider price reductions, what does that mean for other Swiss watch brands? What about luxury cars, jewelry, or fashion? The China market is too big and important for any luxury brand to ignore. You've got situations where pre-owned Rolex prices just keep falling, creating this bizarre parallel universe where buying new costs more than ever, but buying used gets cheaper every month. Industry insiders are saying we're seeing good-looking vintage submariners down around $14,000, while red subs are closer to $20,000 and up, prices that would have been unthinkable just 2 years ago. This creates a psychological nightmare for Rolex because their brand identity is built on the idea that their watches hold value better than gold. When people start seeing their investments losing money faster than crypto during a bear market, the whole narrative starts falling apart. The psychological impact on collectors can't be overstated. These are people who bought watches not just as timepieces, but as statements, investments, and symbols of achievement. When that value proposition gets challenged, it shakes people to their core. We're talking about folks who justified spending $15,000 on a watch because it'll be worth $20,000 in 2 years, only only to watch it drop to $12,000. Look, this story is still developing, and we're probably going to see some major moves from Rolex in the coming months. Whether they actually follow through with price adjustments or find another way to stabilize the Chinese market remains to be seen. What's certain is that this leak has changed the conversation about luxury pricing forever. The crown might be shaken, but Rolex isn't down for the count yet. They've survived economic downturns, market crashes, and changing consumer preferences before. This China situation is just their latest test. But here's what I want to know from you. Do you think Rolex should drop their prices to match market conditions, or should they stick to their guns and maintain premium pricing no matter what? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this debate is just getting started. If you're feeling this deep dive into luxury brand strategy, smash that like button and subscribe for more insider content that breaks down what's really happening behind the scenes in the luxury world. Hit that notification bell, because when the next major luxury scandal drops, you'd be the first to know. Until next time, keep your game tight. Peace.